Hello everyone. My name is Tracy and I work here at Merrill Gardens as your activity director. This month in March we're celebrating women in history. So sit back and enjoy just a short film about our fabulous women that live here at Merrill Gardens. Hello Janine.
Hello.
I've asked you here today because this month we're celebrating women in history. And I find you to be a fascinating woman, and I think that you have a lot to offer. And so I'd like to ask you a few questions, if I may.
Sure. Let's go for it.
Okay. When and where were you born?
I was born in a town called Amarillo, Texas, 1943.
And how did your family make a living?
My dad was a painter, and the younger part of my life, my dad was a minister. So he was a minister and had a church for a few years, and then he was a painter.
What is your earliest childhood memory?
My earliest childhood memories. Well, I have one brother that's 2 years older than myself, and he's 6'2". So, and I've always been a short person, but we were always close. And as young kids, I mean, we played together a lot and just different things. And he's still very close to me. And I always thought I wished I'd had a sister, but I've always been blessed with a wonderful brother.
So you just had one brother?
One brother. We're a small family.
What did your mother do?
My mother was a homemaker. My mother, as far as I can remember, never worked out of the house, out of the home, and she was the love of my life, and we were always best friends, and I couldn't have been more blessed with not having a mother like I had. So I loved her very much.
What was it like going to school?
A lot different than what it is today. I grew up in San Fernando, California. I lived in Texas for only about 6 months, and then my family moved to California. And I was raised in San Fernando, California, and that's where I graduated from San Fernando High School. And back then, we didn't have as many high schools that they have now, so I went to a huge school. And when I graduated with like 700 kids in my senior class. So that's a lot of kids in that. But just typical, teenagers and do things. And I can remember that we rolling our socks up, and big and petticoats. That you could get them as full as you wanted to, and then you sat, your skirts raised up, and that. So I mean, those were things I can remember as a kid, young person.
Yeah.
That fads, so to speak.
Yeah.
Just like they have crazy fads today.
How old were you when you got your first job?
My first job was, let's see, I must have been like about 13. And we lived on a half an acre in California there, and there was a chicken farm just right down the street from us. So my brother and I both got this job working in this little kind of a building where the eggs came on these little conveyor belts and cleaned them and stuff, and we stacked them, and so that was my first job as far as entering into the working world. I was about 13, I think.
And how much did you get paid?
I don't remember. Seems to me like it was like about maybe 50 cents. I can't remember. But anyway, it was, a little spending money, and that was just a big thing for us, as little kids thinking, oh, we got a job and we get paid for it. So, yeah, so that was kind of fun. Because my dad was one that, like, if he found, like, lumber and stuff, places, and they would give it to him free, he would haul it home, because that's how we heated our home, is by burn wood and stuff. So anytime my dad would turn the corner coming home and we saw a trailer full of wood, we knew exactly what was in store. My brother and I both had to move the wood and stuff and stack it. So I always said I've moved enough wood to do a lumber yard. So that's how we heated our home in that. So, but yeah. So, but that chicken place was my first little job.
So when you were growing up as a young woman, what were your dreams?
My dreams. I guess that back then it was like, always wanting to find your mate who you would think, spend your life with. And it was always, like, okay, this is for life, And so I never was one to, like, for really career, thinking I was going out and, having these awesome jobs. I kind of never was like that. I was more a homebodied type of person in that, and I did find that right man.
Well, how did you meet your future husband?
My grandma and grandpa lived in a little town by San Fernando there in Van Nuys, California, and my future husband-to-be at that time managed a Standard oil station. And so my car, the brakes were sticky and the lights on it. And so my mother said, why don't you pull in here? This is where Grandma and Grandpa trade. And so she felt like, it'd be a reputable place. And so we pulled in, and this young man came out and asked if he could help me. And I said, yes, my brake lights have been sticky. Do you think you could check them? And so before it was over, back then, they gave green stamps. Okay, and I know a lot of the young people don't realize what that is, but when I was young, we had green stamps, and you fill these books, and you could get gifts. Well, when we got all through, my future husband gave me just muchos green stamps, and that was the first, little thing that, hey, I kind of am interested. And but anyway, that's how it kind of got started, and he's the one I did marry.
Well, how long after you met your future husband did it take before you two got married?
7 months. And my mother first had a hard time about that because she thought, this is too fast. But from the time I met him and he started coming over to our home, he would come every single night. So for 7 months, he never missed. And so my mother said that kind of helped, make it like it was longer. But she always thought, that was a little fast. And at first, my husband said, when he first met me, he went home and he told his mother he met a girl that he's going to marry.
Ah.
And I said, so he said he fell in love that first meeting. And I said, I don't believe that. I said, I don't think that falls that way. I said, it took me longer. But anyway, when he first asked me to be engaged, at first I said, I don't know, it's a little bit too fast, but I accepted and then got married.
And how long have you two been married?
And it's going to be 50 years this year.
Oh,
so
congratulations.
Yes, thank you. And so it was the right one, meant to be. We've had some hard, rocky roads through those 50 years, but God's been faithful. And I told him last year here, I said, no, I think we're going to make it. And no, we've had a good marriage, and I'm just thankful that we have made that commitment and we've kept that commitment.
So then what do you believe to be the key to a successful marriage?
Give and take, respect, listen to one another. Because I always think is like you meet your spouse, you're two totally different people. You have different personalities, you have different likes, you've been raised different. There's so many things. And then you come together and you think, okay, you're going to blend this. And so it's like, that's my biggest thing is to give and take. And and be there.
So how did you begin working at Merrill Gardens?
That's an interesting, this is a fun thing. I ride my bike. I'm a grandma that loves to ride her bike, and that's what's kept me young through these years. And I was riding one time, and I just live a couple miles down the street, and I knew that this was, going to be a retirement home. And so I've always had a passion for older people and just to reach out and love them. And I always figured one day I would be there, and I would love for somebody to treat me with respect and love and care. And so I rode up on my bike, and at that time they were using the cottages for office. And so I rode up on my bike and walked in, and I said, "Do you think that you'd have anything for a grandma like me?" And I said, "I don't want to work very much." I said, "Just a little bit," I said. And so the lady that was the manager of the Orchards Village at that time was Nancy. And so she said, "Well, sit down." She said, "Let me talk to you." So we sat and we talked, and I just kind of told her, about myself a little bit. And so before it was over with, she said, "Just a moment," she said. And she came back out, and she had papers. And she said, "Here." She said, "I want you to take these home, and I want you to fill them out." And she said, "You're hired, but I don't know what I'm going to do with you." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I said, "I didn't realize," I said, "it would happen this fast." And so anyway, I said, "Okay," I said. So I went home, filled out the papers. But first of all, let me tell you this, that when I went home, I got on my knees, and I prayed, and I thanked the Lord that He was giving me this opportunity, because I felt like this was going to be a little mission for me. And so anyway, I filled out the papers, and I came back the next day, and I told Nancy, I said, "Nancy," I said, "you don't know nothing about me." I said, "But I said, I'm going to tell you right now." I said, "I'm a Christian," and I said, "and I believe the Lord has given me this job." And I said, "And I'm here to give my 100%. I said, "Whatever." And, but anyway, so she said, she just hugged me and was so gracious to me. And she said, "I think you would be good with activities." And I go, "Oh my gosh." I said, "I never was thinking about that." I said, "I thought I could, go the aisles and the halls and dust and like the public restrooms, clean them." I said, like that. I didn't want to clean rooms or anything, but I felt like just little things like that. And so then she said, "No," she said, "I think activities." And so that's how it all kind of started for me to come to Merrill Gardens.
And how long have you been here?
Day one, and I think it's almost coming up 7 years. And it's been an interesting venture. When I look back, I wished I'd have kept a journal, because I've had so many people here that have touched my life and that are gone. And some, you kind of forget and that. But I've had so many encounters with people here, and ones that, were going through difficult times of illness or losing their spouse. And I just felt like I was able to put my arms around them and hug them and just comfort them as much as I could in my own personal way, my own personality. And I just made such wonderful connections with so many people through the years here. And it's been an honor and a privilege that I've been able to have a little part here.
Well, we're very lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Very, very lucky. Yeah. So what is the one thing you most want people to remember about you?
That I've always tried to be a caring person. And I love people. And I just pray that my life will be an example to someone else. I'm far from perfect, but what you see several. I've had some hard things, but God's always been faithful to me. And I've been blessed with many friends. I've been blessed with people that I work with. I've always been treated so well. And I have never taken it lightly how I've been treated here at Merrill Gardens. And I just feel blessed. So I'm thankful.
Well, you certainly changed our lives today in a very positive way. Thank you. And thank you very much, Janine.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you very much.
This month we're celebrating women in history, and we thought that you would be a fabulous choice to interview. So I'd just like to say thank you for agreeing to do this project with us. I'd like to ask you when and where you were born.
Born in southern Arkansas, February the 8th, 1914.
How did your family come to live there?
My father is a Missourian. His folks migrated south for a short time. My mother was born in Biloxi, Mississippi. Her family migrated north to that part of Arkansas, and that's where they lived.
What did your family do to earn money back then?
We farmed. Mostly raised cotton, peanuts, yams, all that sort of.
And what was your earliest memory of school like?
My first thought of school was exciting. I was a great big kid. I went for a walk in the woods, and there was a country school there those years. I looked in the window. I thought this was really great. I didn't go for a while. I think I was around 12 years old, pretty close to that, when I first went to school.
Why is that?
Because my dad just didn't send us.
Were you helping in the farm?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Always at the farm. I lived when I was about 22 years old.
So how old were you then when you started school? About 12?
Yes, best I remember, I was about 12. I was about 5 years. Pretty close. Then we just went a little while. I can't ever remember going the first day of school and going all the way through till spring, summer school is out. I just went to school and there was no work to be done.
So then how long did you live there?
You mean southern Arkansas? I lived there about, might have been 15.
Where did you go after that?
Northern Arkansas, not much difference.
And what did you do for work in northern Arkansas?
The same thing. I worked all my life. When I didn't work on the farm, I worked as cleaning house for other people. That sort of thing. Country. All country. No towns. Until I was probably, I might have been 18, 17 or 18 when I went to the city.
What was your religion growing up?
It was kind of piecemeal, a bunch of different churches I went to. Most of the churches, they had Baptist, Methodist, and Presbyterian, all the different ones in the South. Mostly, I think, was Baptist and one of them. but then later in life I became and stayed with Full Gospel. I can maybe is Pentecostal for one thing, and Church of God. Some of those come under the Full Gospel.
So what were your hobbies as a young woman?
Oh, I don't know. I liked art. Because there's got to be some art here someplace you'd like to see. Maybe I'll show it to you if I dare. Go ahead. Yeah, I did. I liked art. Doing that.
I understand you're a really good sewer.
I've always sewed. Yeah, I like that. When we had a old treadle machine, you know what they are. You see them, I'm sure. But before that, you just sew on your hands, even.
Can you tell me a little bit of something about these items we have here on your couch?
Well, this is old, my mother did. Country stores had from the ceiling kind of up. It would be a container that holds thread. And when you buy something at the store, they'd wrap it up in paper they had and tie it with a piece of string. And my mother saved all the string. Poor people, you didn't have money. You didn't go to the store that much to get grocery thread. So she just tied it together and used it to crochet. This is so worn out, but then I just leave it the way it is. It's simple as I am. And this is, when I grew up, toe sack. Toe sack or gunny sack, burlap bag. Made out of burlap bag.
It's amazing.
Well, you used it as, see this, if she had something different, I think it would be prettier, but that's probably all she had, just that color, she just put it on. I would put a fringe or something on it, but you did that as dresser scarves and all kinds of things, table scarves, just anything you wanted to, and sometimes you'd do dresses or suits out of it if you wanted.
What's the story behind your quilt?
Hmm?
What's the story behind the quilt?
Well, these pieces in here used to be, nothing was fast color. You buy your yardage and it would fade. Now, you don't do that. This is all cotton. And some of it was 10 cents a yard. The better, it'd be 25 cents a yard those years. This, when I'd sew for neighbors, never for money, but I could sew, they were friends, so I'd make a dress for them and I'd get all the scraps. This was made out of tobacco sacks. My dad smoked and rolled his own, and tobacco came in a little bag, just a little tiny bag, this white material. And when he used that up, he'd throw it away, and I just asked if I could have it, wash it, rip it out, wash it, iron it, and use it for the white of my quilt. Yeah. I've had that, gosh, since I was, somewhere here, 18 probably, maybe. I'm going to give it to my granddaughter one day. I had a piece of thing written on there, yeah. Then I decided I better write that thing out so she'll know what I'm talking about.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, well, anyway, mainly because I did it way back when I was a teenager and out of what it's made of. So I thought I'd just have a granddaughter so she could have that.
What about the clothes that you make? Can you tell me a little bit about the clothing?
I'm looking at a dress in a new catalog. Now, one lady gave me 4 catalogs, Blair and old Pueblo, is it catalogs? You probably get them in the mail too. Everybody does. And there was a dress in there like I've been doing. Real quick. Read a minute.
Can you tell me a little bit on how you met your husband?
Blind date. No. I lived in a little town about as big as your thumb, Camp, Arkansas, northern part. My folks went there, and his folks lived about 9 or 10 miles away, more close, up to Mammoth Springs, they lived. But he had a sister that was married and lived just down the road from me. I got to be friends with his sister. And didn't know if she had a brother, didn't care really. But he was working. My sister was going with a man, a boy that was working for my husband's family. And this sister lived here. So he had to come down to see my sister, but he couldn't get there because he had nobody to walk. So he convinced my husband to drive him down. If you go down, you can meet the girl I'm going with, sister. Okay, that was me on a blind date, anyway. And I threatened her doing that. I said, don't ever do that to me again, blah, blah, blah. Well, I went to with him for a couple of years. Then he went to Idaho to work, Wallace, Idaho, in the silver mines. He was there for a couple of years. And we corresponded. He came back, we married. I went there to live. You know, when you're young and you dumb stuff.
And where did you move to after Idaho?
I went there and I married in, 36? And I lived there until 1940. Went to Seward, Alaska. Was my next home. And then from Seward, oh gosh,
Well, how did the trip go on your way to Alaska?
nightmare. I got as far as when I grew up. Men do what they want to do, but wives don't have to know. They'll just come and say, like, I went someplace and I come back, he sold the house with his job, bought your ticket for Alaska. Well, you're the wife, you're supposed to get the kid and go. So I did. Got to Seattle and didn't get there. Somebody says, are you going to Alaska with a baby? He was 3 years old. Didn't know anything about Alaska. Just a little bit I'd heard my dad talk about, something he'd read. And I didn't go. I stayed in Seattle. He went. Didn't even know where he was, what he was doing, other than I knew he was in Alaska looking for a job. One day I get a letter with a ticket come. But I was hoping to get news as to what the country was like. Would I step off of the boat on an iceberg and live there? I had no idea. This is the ticket. Get on the boat. The letter says, don't bring nothing, fishing's fine. You'd be overjoyed to get a letter like that.
Surprise.
Going to the North Pole.
Surprise.
So I went. Oh, jeez. It takes, I think it took us about 5 days, seems to me that it took, to go. And the place I lived in was an old deserted hospital. And I set up housekeeping in the surgery in this old hospital. This somebody had come and took it over and rented it out. You know, it was apartments. Okay. Then we finally bought a house eventually. I look back, I don't know why in the world. Then I went from there to St. Louis and back to Arkansas and down in Arizona and back to Spokane. And I worked as a crane operator in the magnesium plant for, what, 2.5 years. Well, this, I was going from La Quinata over the mountain, because it was a shortcut to San Bernardino. And with my sister, my brother-in-law, and my husband, I rode over to CNA. And anyway, driving along, I'm eyeballing, and I said, "Stop the car, there's pine cones. I've never seen one like this. Stop the car." Okay, stop the car. I get out and grab those pine cones and drive on, start. And my brother-in-law said, "Maud, you can't take those. Those are against the law." I said, "Drive faster." I'm not giving them back. Find me first. So I had two of them. I don't know where the other one is, but I'm hanging on to that one. Then I got one about so long, my husband, with the shotgun of a bed, you have to shoot him off the tree when he worked up there. I've got all kinds of pine cones.
So your husband would shoot pine cones off a tree for you?
Yeah. He used to bring them back in the burlap bag, and I gave them to every.
This pine cone that you have here in your basket, is that one that your husband shot out of a tree?
Yes, well, my husband was a Burlington Northern engineer, so that meant he was on the extra board a lot. He chose to be, so he worked out of Bend, Oregon. And those had pine cones high, and to get one, he'd shoot it. And till he got a big bag full of bring to me. And I had a picture, but it's too hard to get a hold of. But my Christmas tree made out of a lath. A picket fence had some extra ones, so I said, let's make a tree out of it. And he brought little pine cones like these, and I trimmed it with pine cones and beads and the picket fence. And my granddaughter wanted it, so when I moved, I gave it to her.
So we're here with Betty today. Betty, I have just a few questions for you. What is your earliest childhood memory?
Putting myself under the sewing machine on the wheels because my sister had been brought home to the homestead, so to speak, and I think I was jealous. It was probably my first jealous thought. I think I was unhappy because I'd been the baby. I was no longer the baby, so I hid under the machine, the sewing machine on the addles, you know, and it had a covering on it. That was my first memory, I think.
What do you believe to be the key to a successful marriage?
Talk things over, maybe. Just kind of get along. Agree as much as you can with your husband. Feed him well. Have good times after when you go to bed. You know.
What is the one thing you most want people to remember about you?
I hope I was kind to everybody. Didn't hurt anybody's feelings. I guess.
Thank you.
Hi, Colleen.
Oh, hi.
I just have a few questions for you today.
Okay.
How do you like living here at Merrill Gardens?
I like it. The people are really nice. Really enjoy them.
What do you believe to be the key to a successful marriage?
Well, keeping your promise that you made when you walked down the aisle and being faithful.
What is the one thing you most want people to remember about you?
That I'm light and easy and friendly. Christian. That's about it.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Doretta. I just have a few questions for you today. What was your earliest childhood memory?
That's fine. My earliest childhood memory was when I was 5 years old, and I was going to kindergarten, and we were all sitting in the kitchen, and my dad came into the kitchen with this bundle in his coat, and it was our dog Mitzi, our puppy that we had her for like 15 years.
Wow. What world or family events had the most impact on you?
I think maybe my husband's heart attack. The first heart attack he had, they were able to put a stent in, and and he got better, and everything was fine. And then he had another one that they couldn't, and so he went on hospice, and he just died last summer, and that was pretty traumatic.
So what do you believe to be the key to a successful marriage?
The art of compromise. You know, having on both sides.
What is the one thing you most want people to remember about you?
I don't know. I hope they remember that I was kind and helpful.
Thank
About
you.
it.
What world or family events had the most impact on you?
I remember at the end of the war and how happy we were. And my brother and I didn't know how we could celebrate, but we could hear sirens going off all over the countryside. We lived in a farm. And so, having nothing else to do, we went out and beat on the side of a metal building to add to the joy.
What do you believe to be the key to a successful marriage?
Well, compromise is important. And, of course, loving each other very much makes that possible.
What is the one thing you most want people to remember about you?
I hope they remember that I treated them with love.
Hi, Annabelle.
Uh-huh.
When and where were you born?
I was Portland, Oregon.
And how did your family come to live there?
My mother came from Croatia, and my dad was here, and she took a boat and married him, and raised our kids. All three went to, my brother, my sister, myself went to Catholic school in St. Rose on Alameda in Portland, and my brother had moved out to Michigan with an oil company and had 3 children. My sister, husband Jim, was in the Navy, and when he died, he was a captain. He died of cancer because he's a smoker. And my husband was a contractor, made lots and lots of money, and we had a brand new car every year, Thunderbird. We still do. And he did construction. He and my son that's here, my son here, they did every subdivision in Salmon Creek and just about Ridgefield. And when we were 24 years old, we had some money and went first to Hawaii. That was our first trip. And we were married 50 years.
So what is your earliest childhood memory?
Well, I was a tomboy. And I have chased every boyfriend in the neighborhood. And my mother would run me trying to get me home and so on and so forth. But the happiest one went to prom in Grant High School, and we're a very known boy at Grant. And then his friend had run for Jefferson, so we went to the prom at Grant Jefferson. That was very happy. And my first orchid.
Did you attend college?
Just 2 years in Clark.
What was the religion growing up in your home?
Well, nothing really. We went to church every Sunday, and my mother wanted to go confession, Catholic. And we went to Catholic school, which was very, very strict, uniform and all. And that's about all. My mother continued. My brother and sister, no, my sister is very religious, but my brother's family does go to another church, which is okay. And my niece that come here and pick me up on Sunday, that's my brother's daughter, and we both are Catholics, more or less.
So how did you meet your husband?
My sister and my cousin, first cousin Lucy, I was named after her, Lucia Anka, and that's Annabelle. And we were in a Ford car, and we were driving, and a Ford followed us. We had a Ford in Astoria, and then when we stopped and talked to my aunt's a lot older. We were 17, and that gal's in her 40s, and Harry was in the car driving, and he said, "What's that cutie with that hazel brown eyes, and what's the phone number?" And my cousin said, "My mother won't let me go on a boys," and so, but she gave him a phone number, and then he called me a couple of nights, and I said, "Can you go?" "No, what do you want to do?" "I want to go rabbit hunting. I said, "Holy Moses, where are you from?" And he was a farmer, and I was in the city, and pretty soon we went out, and then he went in the service and sent me a ring, and I don't remember when I was married. I said, "My son," I don't even remember, but it was 50 years ago.
So what do you believe is the key to a successful marriage?
Well, we didn't see each other very much. Harry was so much out of town, and Harry was Norwegian through and through. In fact, my daughter's just like him, and my son is like me. And they had a farm life, and my mother-in-law was a strict Norwegian, and she didn't like me because I was skinny and a Catholic, but we married anyway. But we had a good life. Every year he brought me a new car, and I have all the diamonds of the family, Mrs. Parker, and my mother's. And when we moved here and had the accident, I bundled up everything that I had and gave it to my sister Virginia, and put it in a sales, and when I die, and just distribute with everything. This is the only thing, and that's my dad's wedding ring, and I kept it.
So of all the things you learned from your parents, which do you feel most valuable?
Always to be honest and truthful,
and help one another, and we did all my life. My sister helped me, and my brother, when he needed to finance something, I gave him the money. Whether I got back, which I did, I didn't care. And I loved my family first.
What is the one thing you most want people to remember about you?
I was happy-go-lucky. I danced a lot. I traveled, and I modeled for Pendleton. About 2 years, I modeled hairdos and I modeled clothes. And then I went into theater. Was a movie star. I didn't play. That was Clark County, and I was a secretary. I was an actress at all, and that was good. And I did ice skating. We had a show, and we were on the television roller skating, and my sister and I, and another gal, but I traveled all the time until my friend Ruthie Beadle died. But I do see his husband Gary, and I love him. He's just a swell guy. And I went to lunch a week ago, and he said I miss as much as he does, and he plans to move in here when he sells his house. Yep. And I work towards 2 people to bring in here. That made me very happy, because Blanche needed this, and Maud, and her son and I talked, and he wanted to come here, and I'm working on 2 other people.
Thank you, Annabelle.
You're welcome.
Hi, Diane.
Hi, Grace.
So, when and where were you born?
Actually, I was born in Vancouver, Washington, right here at the Kaiser Hospital.
What's your earliest childhood memory?
The neighbors had a dog named Coco. He was a little tiny wiener dog, and we would always ask my mom if we could give him a hot dog, and he would just horse it down really fast. And running through the sprinklers.
Yeah. Good, yeah. What world events had the most impact on you while you were growing up?
I remember in 2nd grade, I believe it was, when the principal of my school went on the intercom to the whole school and told us that President Kennedy had been shot. That was in '63. And then she came on the phone, the intercom, a little while later and said that he had passed away. And the teacher had us all start saying prayers, which was kind of nice. At such a young age, we were kind of young to understand something like that. And then also I remember, and I don't remember what year it was, but John Glenn was in a ship and circled the Earth, and we got to make a picture. We did like a crayon picture, and then we got to take blue watercolors to make like the sky.
How is the world today different from when it was like when you were a child?
I was just saying the other day how it's so much busier now. Life was easier. I think that everything is accelerated so fast. I think the kids have so much to do and so little time to do it, and the years go faster and faster each year that we have. And technology has taken us a lot of places.
What stories have come down to you about your grandparents?
Interestingly enough, my mother and father, my grandmother was married in Russia, and her first husband died in the revolution, and she married again, and her name is Barbara, the name was Peter, and they would call him Petra. And at a young age, they married, and he went to San Francisco and got a job at the CNH sugar refinery there and saved enough money to bring his wife over. And when they had enough money, he sent it to her, and she was to take a boat over as well, but didn't speak English like her husband did. So when she made her way, she had to, in those days, it was a closed state. You couldn't leave Russia. It was, the Iron Curtain. And so they had to kind of sneak through, and she had to hike through the rice paddies, I remember Grandma said. And of course, it was very wet, and it was dangerous. She did it by herself. And then she finally made it to Japan. And when she got there, they were having a huge tsunami. There was an earthquake, which created a huge tsunami, and all of the boats in the harbors packed up with people to save them and went out to sea. So she didn't have her passage. Her boat left without her. Of course, I don't think she spoke Japanese either, but somehow she got passage on a Chinese junk, which is a type of boat, a very large, actually it's very small for the ocean, but it's a large boat. And she sailed, they took her to San Francisco, and it was such a small boat that she had terrible motion sickness the whole way. So that was quite a journey. And then when she made it to the mainland, she had a train ticket. So she got on the train and didn't know when to get off, so she ended up beyond Seattle. And so they had to look at her ticket and send her back to the Bay Area.
How did you meet your husband?
My friend that I played softball with in college, she grew up in Cave Junction, and she went to school with Dan, and she introduced me to him. He used to play cribbage.
What was it like when he proposed?
It was me proposing.
Oh, how nice. And different.
But it was fun.
What do you believe to be the key to a successful marriage?
Patience, forgiveness, listening, and try to be happy, make every day happy. Kids help too.
Of all the things you learned from your parents, which do you feel most valuable?
I think that they set such a good example for me when I was a young kid and growing up, and they were very supportive of family, and family being the most important. It prepared me really well to have my own family, which is quite gratifying.
What is the one thing you most want people to remember about you?
Well, I like people. I like to be around people. I like to enjoy what I do. So just that I was a likable person, I guess.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Verna.
Hi.
So when and where were you born?
I was born in Nebraska, a small town called Pilger.
How did your family come to live there?
Well, my father came from Kansas, and they farmed there.
What was your earliest childhood memory?
Oh, gee. I guess playing with my cousin. She lived right down the alley from me, so we played together.
So then what was your favorite thing to do for fun?
For fun, roller skate. We roller skated on the sidewalks in town. We didn't have a roller derby place.
What was school like as a child?
Oh, it was great. We had such nice teachers, and everybody seemed to get along so well. I really enjoyed school.
Did you attend high school and college?
I attended high school, not college.
What was the religion growing up in your home?
In my home, it was Baptist. We were Protestants and went to service every Sunday.
How is the world today different from what it was like when you were a child?
Oh, all of them. Computers and everything now. We didn't have any of that. We had to, read our books and learn from that. So all the new computers and the new things now that the kids have, we didn't have.
What world events had the most impact on you while you were growing up?
World events. I really don't. No, can't think.
Depression probably, or World War II?
Well, depression, definitely. We were in a depression, right?
So what stories have come down to you about your grandparents?
Oh, my grandparents. My grandfather came from Ireland, and his first wife passed away. My grandmother, Rebecca, I never did know her, but he married again, and I had a nice grandmother then.
So how did you meet your husband?
Oh, we went to the same church. He was a little boy, and I was a little girl. We knew each other for years. Didn't start dating, of course, till high school.
What was it like when he proposed?
I think we just sort of knew we were going to be together. So I don't remember him proposing necessarily. Just said, let's get married.
So what do you believe is the key to a successful marriage?
Well, let your partner have some space. Don't try to do everything and tell him what to do. Let him have his space so that he can, do his thing as well as I can do mine.
What do you think are the best things to help keep seniors healthy and fit?
Oh, we have to eat healthy, and we have to exercise and do everything, and of course take our pills that the doctor gives us. But exercise is very important, I think.
Of all the things you learned from your parents, which do you feel the most valuable?
Of being kind to other people, respecting other people. My mother always taught me that. Respect someone else. Don't, like kids in school, sometimes they bully. Just respect that person. She taught me that.
What is the one thing you most want people to remember about you?
Oh, I don't know. Just who I am, I guess. I don't know, that I enjoy people, and so it's nice here where you can be around other people. I've enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Of all the things you learned from your parents, which do you feel most valuable?
Well, we always had good parents in all of them, from there to there. Yeah.
What is the one thing you most want people to remember about you?
About me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. I don't tell everybody anything, I just don't like to do that.
Well, what would you like people to remember about you?
Well, I don't know. You can't remember a lot of them. But we did have like good parents and little kids and all those people, So that's about it.
Thank you, Donna. Hi, Linda. What world events had the most impact on you while you were growing up?
Well, I remember when President Kennedy died. When I got home, I cried. I cried and cried And I didn't realize exactly what was going on, but I know my mom was very, very upset, and I think I was related to that.
How is the world today different from what it was like when you were a child?
Well, it wasn't high tech. Our toys, we didn't necessarily make our toys like our parents did, but our toys were not high tech, so more enjoyable, I think. Got more exercise.
What is your earliest childhood memory?
I remember one Christmas, I got the prettiest coat for Christmas, and it was wild. It was all white, but it had red fur on the inside, and I thought that was the prettiest thing.
Of all the things you learned from your parents, which do you feel most valuable?
Respect others. I've always respected others, and I don't know. They've taught me a lot. I wouldn't be the person that I am if it wasn't for Mom and Dad.
What is the one thing you most want people to remember about you?
That I have a good time with all the residents here. And hope that they have a good time too.
Thank you.
Lots of good people.
Hello, Izzy. When and where were you born?
In Vacaville, California. It's Vacaville. Vaca means cow.
How did your family come to live there?
My mom and dad were immigrants from Spain, and they settled in Vacaville in California, and all my siblings and I were all born there. So I'm first generation American.
What is your earliest childhood memory?
Of one of my brothers carrying me over his shoulder when we went out to visit. He carried me over his shoulder when I fell asleep, and I always was aware that he was carrying me out.
What was school like as a child?
I don't remember too much of the real early years, but I liked high school. I met my husband there, and it was great. Everyone was very kind of like you're very friendly.
What was the religion growing up in your home?
Catholic.
What world events had the most impact on you while you were growing up?
The events,
World events.
Pearl Harbor was quite traumatic, and we all went through a big change in our lives. And I've always said I can't realize and think about how patriotic everyone was. We don't have that now.
How is the world today different from what it was like when you were a child?
Everything, all the technology and all of that. My mom had a wood stove. I mean, you know, it was nothing like, no modern conveniences like now.
How did you meet your husband?
We went to high school together. He was an all-star athlete, and he chose me of all the girls that were after him.
What was it like when he proposed?
He joined the service, and he was in Hawaii for 3 years. And the first night that he was back, he proposed.
What do you believe is the key to a successful marriage?
Communication. Very important that you keep all that open.
Of all the things you learned from your parents, which do you feel most valuable?
Common sense. They taught us all to use common sense, and that has seen us through a lot.
What do you think is the best thing for seniors to do to stay healthy?
Well, when you get to the point like I did in my life, you have to give up your home and everything, and this kind of an establishment is perfect. I know that we all drag our feet, and none of us want to come
give up everything and come here to a place like this. But Merle Gardens has been exceptional. I've made a lot of friends. They're all very good. They have a lot of activities and things. This is a perfect place when you get because it's better than home because they do everything for you.
What is the one thing you most want people to remember about you?
My sense of humor, and that I never gossip, and that I'm open to discuss anything with anybody and keep a secret. I never repeat what I. My father taught us that anything that happens in the house stays in the house, so that's the rule we live by. Anything that happens privately, that's kept.
Thank you, Izzy. So we're here today with Tony Timmons, celebrating women in history. And Tony, we just have a few questions for you today.
Okay.
When and where were you born?
I was born in Oregon, in Coos Bay, and my parents came out from Montana, and when I was about 4 years old, we moved to Hood River, and in Hood River, my father set up the Hood River Bottling Works, and so all through my years there, I had all the soda pop I wanted to drink, and so did all my friends. That was fun.
What was school like as a child?
I went all through school in Hood River, all 12 years, and I had a good time. We didn't have as many things offered to us as the kids do now, but I had a lot of friends, and I liked the school. It was good.
Where did you go to college?
Went to college first at Linfield, and that's in McMinnville, and I stayed there a couple of years, and then I quit and worked for the Oregonian for a year or two, and then I got married, and some years later I went to Merrillhurst, and that's where I got my degree.
What did you get your degree in?
In elementary education. So I was a teacher, for 5th grade teacher.
How long did you teach school?
20 years. And after I got married, that was to my first husband, and his name was Jack Mudd, and he was a teacher, and we lived in Astoria, and that's where my 3 kids were born. And then when we moved to Milwaukee, where he had a job in the Milwaukee schools, then that's when I went back to school, and then I began to teach.
What were some of your favorite books as a young adult?
Oh, let's see, I always liked science fiction and fairy tales. And that's why a lot of the stuff that I write now is science fiction.
How long have you been a writer?
I've been a writer almost all my life. I've always had an imagination and just love to think about things that maybe weren't real, because I was just drawn to it. So I watched a lot of science fiction on TV after TV came in, and read a lot of fairy tale books, and I just kind of drifted towards that. But I do write lots of other things in addition, family stories and stories of romance and religion and things like that. So I have lots of different kinds of stories too.
Have any of your stories been published?
Yes, I've got a few things published in the Oasis books, poetry, and 2 essays, and several other things. I've written an essay on what it's like to be on oxygen, and another one on my fear of living in the Ring of Fire, where we're surrounded with earthquakes and volcanoes. Mm-hmm. And so those things have been published, and then I've had a lot of things published in the Oregonian.
How is the world today different from what it was like when you were a child?
I think it's not safe. When I was little, I felt very secure. I think nowadays there's not that security for kids and or even adults. And the world is still a beautiful world, but it's not as safe and secure as it was when I was little.
How did you meet your current spouse?
I met my current spouse, Archie, who also lives here in this facility, and he and I both had lost our spouses through death. His wife died, my husband died, but we had been old friends because his wife had been a friend of mine, and he and my first husband had been teachers together. And so one day we went out for coffee, and that kind of started it. We just kind of went on from there and decided after a couple of years that we would get married. So it was fun.
What do you believe is the key to a successful marriage?
Well, I've had 2 successful marriages, and I can't really pinpoint what would be the answer, except that we had strong feelings for each other and had respect for each other all through both marriages. And with the first marriage, it was totally different because we were raising our children. With the second marriage, we had a lot of fun going. We had a few cruises, and we were just able to get along and just get used to having a different mate, and we had a good time.
Of all the things you learned from your parents, which do you feel most valuable?
My parents always taught me to be very frugal with finances, and they also taught me my mother taught me a love of God and always had me in Sunday school and so forth. And I think they were just really good parents. When I think back on the way they raised me, I just think they were really superb parents. But I think they also learned it from their parents, or my mother did. My dad didn't.
So what stories have come down to you about your grandparents?
I used to visit my grandmother in Montana. That's where she lived, and she was married to her second husband. And she was a wonderful woman. I only saw her 2 weeks out of each year, and she was just one of these people that very old-fashioned, very almost prudish, according because I was a teenager, and she thought, oh, the girls were just, the young girls were, they were showing too much skin. But she was just a wonderful person. She had a very difficult life because she lived out on the farm, didn't have power, didn't have water in the house. But so I loved going back to visit her. It was like going back in time. But she was just a real sweet person. And she had 2 successful marriages, so I think, well, see, I was kind of like my grandmother.
So what is the one thing you most want people to remember about you?
That I had a real deep love for my family. They always came first, all through my whole life, and even now, because my family always comes around, and they're always willing to help me if I need help. And I just feel like I've always, that's really been number one, is my family and God.
Well, thank you for spending time with us today.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it. It's fun.